Which button?
You can just press down.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, good morning, everybody. I was trying to think of how to introduce this. I think it's just a big thank you to everybody. Can you hear me? I've got a short voice. Let's try again. Andy, can you hear me? Andy? Hello? Can you put it up higher?
Can go there.
Besides having a low voice, my memory is not that good either. I don't know if I told the joke at the last reunion of this difficult patient of mine who suffered from insomnia for about 40 years. He came to see me, and his insomnia was caused by some person who hibernated under his bed. He wanted to know if I could help him. I said, yeah, of course. He needs some psychotherapy, about 6 sessions. How much would it cost? About $1,000 a session. And he said, I want to think about it. He never came back. A couple of months later, I bumped into him in Adderley Street, and I said, aren't you the guy who couldn't sleep, and you had that apparition under your bed? And he said, yes, I'm cured. I said, but you never came back for treatment. He says, no, you were too expensive, Doc. $1,000, 6 sessions at $6,000. That's a lot of money. How did you get cured? I went to see my rabbi. He cured me in 1 session. How did he cure you? He cut the legs off the bed. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, Alistair. Thank you for including me. And thank you for everybody for being here. I'm just grateful to be in this class of 1972. Enjoyed it. So I want to tell you a story. Everybody knows about D-Day that has started in the early hours of the 6th of May, but it actually didn't. D-Day was on the 6th of June 1944, but it actually started just after midnight of the same day. I'm going to be turning around, and if you can't hear me, because I need to point. What happened at that time? I was referred a few gentlemen, soldiers, who had taken up residence in South Africa. And one of them told me a story, and this started a relationship between doctor and patient that went for a long, long time, because he really aroused my interest, and I really wanted to help him. And he came along, and they sent me the clinical notes of 1942, which was quite amazing. And he was 73 years old. He was an engineer, no psychiatric history of note, but he started to tell me a very, very interesting story. You can read this slide, but I'll just point out that he had trained for a secret mission, he told me. At the night before D-Day, he had gone in a glider that was towed across the channel and crash landed. And all the soldiers inside, they survived. And the mission was to take a bridge. And they had to meet up at a cafe called the Café Gendré. And that the code words for success was ham and jam. And then the following day, he found himself in a village called Escoville, which was 10 kilometers away from where he landed. So this was the story he told me in this fragmented, typical post-traumatic way. So, of course, this aroused my curiosity, but also brings me to something that I'm very thankful to, and that is my darling wife, Jennifer, who's doing our photographs. but who's also accompanied me in the escapades going to France to investigate the soldier's story. So thank you, Jen, and thank you for doing what you do. So one of those is Irvine Eidelman standing on Gold Beach next to Olivia Warman, a military historian. And he explained to me that this mission was so important that had it not been a success, D-Day would have failed. And he used the words of Stephen Ambrose, who wrote a book on this. So I just want to show you, that was the English Channel. And all the Allied forces were going to go across to go over to these beaches. But there's the city of Caen. And the big problem for the D-Day people is that if the soldiers got off on the beach, how would they get into the hinterland? They had to cross these bridges. And that's why this mission was so important. So that's what we went to investigate. Now, the leader of the mission was a guy called John Howard. And his orders were to seize the bridges, there were 2 of them, and to keep them intact and to hold them until relieved. And if they could not hold them, to destroy them, because otherwise the enemy could trap the soldiers on the beach. How were they going to get there? They were going to fly 26 airborne soldiers per glider. These gliders were called Horsa gliders, made completely of wood. And they were towed over the channel at midnight in the darkness by 3 bombers to take these bridges. That's what the Horsa glider, the white markings were to designate them as friendly. Here's the diagram. There are the little bridges that need to be taken. There are the beaches. And there's the town that the soldier found himself in after taking the bridges. How did he get there? Now, I want you to just imagine this. This is some feet of flying. The area between the canal and the river was about 100 meters. And these 3 gliders landed intact on the strip of ground to take that bridge and rendezvous over there in the cafe, in the dark at midnight. And they did it. These are actual pictures of the gliders that landed, all smashed up. The soldier I was treating was in glider number 3. There is the bridge, and there is the cafe. There's another pictorial thing. 100 meters, there are the 3 gliders, captured the bridge, rendezvoused at Cafe Jean Drey. And these are the aerial reconnaissance pictures the next day, showing the 3 gliders which had crash landed. And this is a picture that I took, and I'm looking towards one of the bridges, and probably this is the view of the soldiers when they ran from the gliders to take the bridges. And there is a bust of Howard, who was the leader of the mission to take this. It's all well, nicely laid out and explanatory, where the gliders landed, how they landed, what time they landed, and who was on the gliders. There's the cafes. So over the bridge and rendezvous inside this cafe. Not quite sure what went on in the cafe, but that was the secret code that was transmitted to Britain. Ham and jam, they had taken the bridges. And the owner of the cafe, his name was Georges Gendray. He didn't speak a word of English at all, and he and his family kept tabs on the German throughout the war. And this was the liberation of the cafe, which was the first bit of France to be liberated in the war. Now you can read about this in this book by Stephen Ambrose. It's called Pegasus Bridge. Very nice book. And then we did a little bit more investigating around there, and then we found a church with a lot of bullet holes. There's Olivia Warmer, and there were a lot of graves, and these graves belonged to medical personnel. I'm not quite sure still what happened at this particular church, but this was the church that the soldier was referring to, with all the bullet holes. Here is the grave of Lieutenant Brotheridge. He was the leader of the platoon that rushed over the bridge first, and he was the first casualty of D-Day. He died on the bridge just after taking it, having been shot in the throat, unfortunately. And from this particular graveyard is a picture of the bridge. So we were in the area that this soldier was telling me. So still today, it's quite unresolved how this patient of mine got 10 kilometers away and what actually happened in the cave. And as a psychiatrist, you want a few answers, but you can't always give the answers. So I did the next best thing. I wrote a book. Not a factual book, but a novel based on what I thought would happen, or did happen, at Pegasus Bridge on D-Day. Thank you.